So ladies, I have another devotion for you here, and I title this one Jabez. This individual has been on my mind really off and on for quite a while, probably years really, then I would forget about it and not do anything, but I don't think I've done a devotion on this individual before, but you're welcome to look. You read about him for the most part in just 2 verses. 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. And there have been sermons preached about this individual. There have been some short little books written about this individual. I think more or less he's been a point of some confusion before theologians down throughout the century. Because when you read about Jabez, it's almost as if these 2 verses, verses 9 and 10, are cut and pasted into 1 Chronicles chapter 4, because the chapter starts out basically with a family genealogy of Judah. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after verse 8, you have verses 9 and 10, which talk about Jabez. And then right after that, we go right back into the genealogy. So it's really odd how this is placed in here and why this is placed in here. So with that said, let me read 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. And we can learn now, ladies, about a most curious individual. So here it is. Now Jabez was more honorable, and consider that word, ladies. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. And now this is years later, just in between verses 9 and 10. This is years later. He's no longer a little boy or a little baby. He's a grown man now. And Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. And I get weepy when I read this, ladies. So God granted him what he requested. If there's one person for me, and this is conjecture now, ladies, who I think is a lot like Jabez, who had a lot in common with him, I think it would be Hannah. She, of course, was Samuel's mother, and both Hannah and Jabez had situations foisted upon them that were beyond their control. Hannah, of course, was barren and could not have children, and Jabez, of course, had that name of pain, and he obviously didn't ask for any of that. And with Hannah, her husband's wife ridiculed her and made her feel inadequate about the fact that she was barren. And I don't doubt that she was ridiculed and made to feel inferior by the fellow believers around her in the society that she grew up in. And Jabez, I don't really know why he was called a child of pain. Maybe it was a painful birth. But, most birth is painful. Maybe it was because he was just one more mouth to feed. And so his mother and perhaps his brothers, out of their own sin, made him painfully aware of his inadequacies and the fact that he was not wanted from the time he was a little boy to adulthood. But what is so extraordinary for me, ladies, about these 2 individuals, Hannah and Jabez, they had the courage in front of other believers. And you have to understand that, because I think that's exactly what Jabez did too, or else we wouldn't have been reading about him. This wasn't something he did in private. People knew about it because he did it publicly, but they were both willing to be humiliated in their cry for God's mercy upon them. And that's another point that I want to make. And God, because of that, honored both of them. Do you understand what I'm telling you? And with Hannah, he opened up her womb, and with Jabez, he granted his request. And I'm going to read that request again, and I'll try not to cry. He said, oh, that you would bless me indeed. And ladies, he's doing this under duress, like Hannah did. He says, oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand, now just listen to what he's saying, would be with me, that you would be with me, oh God. He's not relying on man. He can't. He doesn't have that anymore. Neither did Hannah. And that you would keep me, look at this, from evil. What extraordinary things he's asking. He's not just saying, enlarge my tent, give me money and all of this. But there's a moral component and awareness that this man has that maybe his brothers didn't have, which is why he's more honorable than people in his family. He's a thinking man. And then he says this, that I may not cause pain. Take away the scourge from me. Take away the stumbling block. That is my name. That is what people think of me. He's being selfless here, that he may be a blessing to people. That's Jabez, and that's Hannah. God bless you both.